Hello and welcome to episode 158 of the Skips View podcast. My name is Dean and I am jumping on. It's been a little bit since our last podcast episode. We've been kind of working out what the year is going to look like, in terms of everything, including the podcast. If you've been following along on Twitter or on the website, and I'm going to kind of be showing a lot of the website today for those who watch on YouTube and X, we've got a lot of writers. We've got about 12 now, and I'm going to kind of just go through everyone today. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through kind of who we have here for 2025. And I'm also going to go over my top 10 all-time first basemen. So what I'm doing is I'm doing each position top 10 lists. I'm already regretting it because one, it takes a lot of time, and two, I'm already being ripped apart in the comments and whatnot. So I will go over that and I'm going to set some guidelines too. I set a few in the blog that I just put out. I'm gonna have to set a few more because there are some people who are already going after me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen and just kind of go over who we have with us for this year. Okay. And it's a pretty big team. Okay. So here we are on the Skippers View homepage. And on the top, it's a lot of names. And I'm kind of just leaving it as is for now. I still have to actually add some. Dan Bartels, for example, whose first blog is right here, the Happy New Year blog. He needs to get onto the top here. So let me go through real quick. We'll go through everyone's blog just so you guys are aware of like who we got. So obviously, here's myself. We have Brett, Discuss Baseball. So Sam. Okay, OC Baseball, who's got 3 Met blogs ready to roll out over the next couple days. Overdue Sports, okay, who I think has been writing on his honeymoon for the past 2 weeks. So we'll see how much longer the marriage lasts after the honeymoon. We have Jeb, and kind of like I should go through. So like I'm Red Sox, write about a lot of things, but I'm a Red Sox fan. Brett's a Yankee fan. Sam is a Red Sox fan. OC is a Mets fan. Overdue Sports is a Dodgers fan. He also follows the Brewers. Jeb is a Braves fan. So Jeb primarily, as you can see here, writes Braves. Louis' analysis. Louis from Belgium. So we've actually gone international with having a writer from Belgium, which is pretty cool. And I actually write it in. I'll show you here. On most blogs, especially Brett's pre-Grammarly, I will fix the grammar and writing. However, as you can see, Lewis is from Belgium. I have no idea what his level of English writing is, what his first language, or if he even can actually speak English. So I'm going to leave it for authenticity. With love, Dean. So when you read these blogs, if the English looks a little off, it's because he's from Belgium. So Isaac. So we got Isaac's blog here. Stats Brad, which I think his logo is different now. Nick's Picks. So he just put out a Dominican Winter League blog yesterday, which is really cool. Those games are starting today. So it kind of breaks down what everything looks like. We have Julian Jacobson's blog, Sam Horvath's blog, which he might end up being our best writer already. Okay, so let's see. So from December 7th, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blogs, and they all bang. And then also we have Ethan from running from the OPS, who just joined us kind of last minute to start the new year. I kind of like made it a cutoff, so I'm not ruling out bringing other people in, but this is kind of the team that we're going to run with for now. There's a few other names like Dan Bartels, who they are. I still have to put them up top here, but yeah. We have a pretty well-rounded group here for 2025 with the Skippers View. And especially if you go on and follow everyone on X, which is what I suggest to do, both the main accounts for the Skippers View and really the main account for the Skippers View, it's tough because I want it to have, it's me doing it, but I don't want it to have just my voice. So as you'll see, I'm doing a lot of lists right now. So I've been doing like the WAR leaders from every decade for each league and kind of comparing that to who won the MVP. So like I just put out the 1990 to 1999 American League WAR leaders, and there's one MVP, that being Cal Ripken Jr. in 1991. But it's just fun to look at because you look at Juan Gonzalez, he won 2 MVPs in that decade, and if you take the WAR from those 2 years combined, it's like 8.7, I think, and it doesn't even touch what, say, Ken Griffey did in 1 year in 1996 when he put up 9.7 WAR. So I'm trying to make it a little more like broad and kind of cover a lot of things rather than just posting about the Red Sox. So if you go into the main account, which I can actually just share here if I want, if you go into the main account, my goal is to again continue to post on it. Obviously, like I will still post on it every day, but I don't know what that is. So if I go here, like actually I messaged or was commenting on Max Clark's stuff and he responded to me. So I'm gonna try to do a lot of lists and not just like me talking about the Red Sox. I will retweet the different accounts. So like here is running from the OPS, who he's just skyrocketing in followers. He's probably gonna not even need us. Here's Sam Horvath. Okay, so again, go and give these guys Nick's picks. Go and give these guys follows over on Twitter. Dan Bartels puts up like, yeah, I mean, look, he's just like sky. I think he had like 3,000 followers not that long ago. So these guys are just shooting up. So I'm glad that they're down to come on and and write on the website. I do think as cool as Threads and let's see if Dan's in his Twitter space right now. It's not as cool as like Threads and Twitter spaces and things like that are. I do think that like written form is still very important, which is why I put a lot of emphasis on the blog and put a lot of focus on the blog and make sure it's kind of running well. So yesterday we had 4 blogs go out. We had one of my blogs went out today. I have another Type P blog to put out. We've got, if I were going to the drafts right now, there's 4 or 5 blogs that are kind of being worked on all at once. It's really cool to kind of see everyone kind of editing and doing their thing. So definitely just, again, keep an eye out on all of that. And yeah, Brett will be on the podcast. Brett will be the primary podcast person for this year. I will be on most of the episodes, but I think the goal is to have kind of like a round table of a rotating a chair kind of idea where Brett brings in, we have 12 people on this team right now. Brett's bringing in different people for each episode and highlighting different things. So for me, I'm going to be putting out episodes on all of my top 10 lists. So I'm going to go kind of run through this one real quick. I would like it to be about 10 minutes each. Because I'm also going to put this on YouTube, so I don't want it to go too long. But I decided to start at first base. And again, I've put out lists like this before, but I was motivated New Year's Eve. I was with a friend, and he had mentioned, which I didn't know, that I guess he was following along with what we've been doing. I think I told him once about the Skipper's View to keep it secret from most people. And he had mentioned that he loved what we were doing, but he definitely wants to see like more like all-time lists and like conversations like that. And for the most part, we avoid that. We're not avoid it. I like talking about it, but I think we have a very young team and very analytically driven team almost. Like if you go look at the majority of Sam or running or Ethan or Mike or Isaac, or like it's very analytically driven, which is great. And I think that's super relevant and needed. But I also love talking about the historical aspect of the game, which I think is really important as well, so that you don't have people like Brett who don't know who Mookie Wilson is. And so kind of keeping in line with that. I kind of break down what the rules here. So I want to try to have a current player on every top 10 list. I think that's, for the most part, somewhat doable. You're going to see here that I have Freddie Freeman, and I think you can make the argument that Freddie Freeman is, it's tough. You could argue he's already a top 10 first baseman of all time. I think he will end up being a top 10 first baseman of all time, which is why I have him here. Obviously, like some snubs. So you have like Eddie Murray, Jeff Bagwell, Todd Helton, Buck Leonard. You have some people who are not on this list that you definitely could have argued for, and that's what I'm getting a lot of attacks for on X, is that I have Freeman here at 10. But again, my goal is to try to have at least one modern current player on this list. And I try to keep it balanced. So like I have current players, I have players from the 1800s, I have players from like the golden era of baseball, and then like early 1900s. So like I try to get like players from each kind of era in here. So just something to note about that. I understand that there are Negro League players. That was something I was also called out on, and you will see some on this list. I just didn't really feel like anyone here was top 10. I'm going to be putting like, so for second base, I'm actually going to put that out tonight on Twitter, and I'll write the blog the following day and then do a thread on it on my personal account that day as well. So like I'm putting in different places for you guys to look at. And honestly, like putting the list out just 1 through 10 on the main account I changed some stuff because some people pointed out things, and I was like, oh, you know what, that's a good point. And I dove a little deeper. And even as I was writing this, I started to change the placing. So, and even after I posted, I was like, ugh, I feel like I should have changed it. This is a very difficult thing. That's why I'm doing it in the way where I'm putting out the lists, I'm waiting a day, and like kind of thinking about it. And then when I put my blog out, that's kind of my definitive list. So, like the post that you see from yesterday, if I were to show it to you, that list, it's all the same players, but the order is actually different than what I have here on the blog. So again, I'm going to be using some key stats. So average, home run, RBIs, OPS. I'll put hits if it's applicable. Okay, B WAR, WAR 7, and JAWS, and then any major accolades that they have. I take all of that, I put it on a spreadsheet, and I have ChatGPT just kind of format it for me and put it in bullets just to make it easier for people to write. So here we go. So number 10, I have Freddie Freeman. And like I said before, I think that you can make the argument that he's already number 10, but I want to have at least one current player in the top 10, which is why we have. Oh, my poster fell down again behind me. Almost 100% chance it's going to fall down while I'm recording, but it's fine. I think you make the argument that Freeman's already top 10. He's got an MVP. He's got a Gold Glove. He's got 3 Silver Sluggers. He has a World Series MVP. He's got World Series numbers that are on par or better than all these other players that are kind of like on the outside looking in of this top 10 list. And again, I think he's got at least 3 more productive seasons in him, if not more, which kind of put him over the edge in certain categories. So I think he will have 400 home runs. Again, I don't think you're going to see as many. So the argument I was getting was Eddie Murray is a 3,000 hit guy, right? I just don't think you're going to see as many of those. If there's someone who has a chance, right? It's Freddie Freeman. He's at 2267. I want to get that exact number. Again, he's 34. He puts in 3 more solid years. He's probably still going to be on the outside. He's actually definitely going to be on the outside looking in terms of 3,000 hits, but you never know. So I do think that number, 3,500 home runs, same with pitchers with like 300 wins. Those numbers that we used to look at and be like, boom, you hit this, you're a Hall of Famer. I think those are going to be lower just because of the way the game is played today. All right, moving on. Number 9, we have Cap Anson. So this is our first of 2 players from the 1800s. Cap Anson is one of baseball's first superstars. He's very controversial today. If you go and read about him, or if you watch Ken Burns documentary, especially when you look into kind of like the racial divide in baseball and where it started, you can attribute a little bit of that to Cap Anson. So I struggled as to should I have him on this list. But again, if you look at WAR and these numbers, that's really what I'm going off of. He's 4th all time in B WAR. He's 5th all time, or he's 2nd all time in defensive WAR among first basemen. Which, if you look at that list and you look at the top 30, it's mostly players from the 1800s, and that was something that Warmonger on Twitter was kind of pointing out to me. I understand that, and like the positioning changes and adjustments and whatnot. I'm going off of the data that I have. Is kind of how I'm making some of these judgments. So maybe I will change that. I don't know. I gotta figure it out. See, it's like I'm going through this list, and even now I'm like, do I need to change it? But the list of those is the list. I had 97 home runs in a time where, again, power was not a thing. And again, he was player manager. Kind of ran his team like an army. He would make them do marches. He banned alcohol. He was kind of an authoritarian. I think a lot of his players hated him, but he was great. He played 27. So moving on to number 8, just like it's kind of funny when Roger Connor, he finished his career the same year that Anson finished. They both finished in, I think, 1887 or maybe 1897. Connor did 18 years. Anson did 27 years. Connor, though, he was the home run king in baseball for 31 years. So, one, he's technically the best defensive first baseman if you look at D WAR of all time, right? He's got 84.3 WAR. Okay, he's got 47 WAR 7. And that's, again, you take like the 7 best years. And there's 65.6 JAWS. And one of the reasons I put him here, again, you have to look at, I'm not primarily looking at WAR, but it's tough when you have someone who's 84 WAR to keep them off the top 10 list. You can, but I feel like if I do that, I'm going to get critiqued for not having old era players on, so it's hard. But what put him above Anson for me was the fact that he was the home run king for 31 years. So his 138 home runs stood until Babe Ruth broke that in 1921. Then Ruth held it until Aaron. Aaron held it for 33 or 37, something like that. Or no, maybe it was 27 years for Connor, and then like 31 or 35 for Aaron. I have to get the exact years down. But point being, Roger Connor was the home run king for a generation, and I think that's an important thing to kind of point out. So he's going to sneak in here at number 8. Number 7 is Johnny Mize, and we're going to get into 2 players here who lost a chunk of their prime to World War II. And when we go through all the top 10s, you're going to see players that are in the top 10 who are like probably like mid-level, like 5, 6, 7, 8, that would have been much higher if it wasn't for World War II. So I make sure to acknowledge that. So Mize is one of those, right? He's a 5 times World Series champion. He won those off the Yankees towards the end of his career, but he lost 3 of his prime years to World War II. And again, he's 5th all time in WAR 7 amongst first basemen, and he only trails Lou Gehrig in terms of World Series rings for first baseman here on this list. He's got 78.6 B WAR. He's got a WAR 7 of 48.4. He's got a JAWS of 59.5. If you look at his stats, 359 home runs, probably would have hit 400. Almost definitely would have hit 400 or right around 400 if he didn't go off to the WAR. 1,337 RBIs and 959 OPS. What I'm going to do for the next list is I think I will add the amount of hits as well, because I think that's important, and it's something I kind of left out. But he's got a 312 batting average all time. So again, I'm putting Mize at number 7. He's one of 2 players on this list who lost a lot of time to the war. Now, number 6, and this is where I think I'm going to start getting some hate, and you can see kind of here in this giant paragraph that I wrote, I have Miguel Cabrera, who in our lifetime put together a stretch from 2009 to 2013 that I think, like outside of Pujols, Bonds, Mike Trout, and maybe Aaron Judge, I think we'll kind of have to wait and see with that. It's one of the most insane 4-year stretches that I've seen in my lifetime. Okay, so I'm 30. So I'm like, you look at Pujols, and Pujols is obviously going to be on this list. You look at Pujols from 02 to 09 or 11, kind of. And then you look at Bonds. But again, you have to take the steroids into account. When you look at Judge the last few years, and you look at Trout at the beginning of his career, Miguel Cabrera 2009 to 2013 is right there. He's got the 2 MVPs, Triple Crown 2019, 7 Silver Sluggers. He's got a World Series ring from earlier on in his career. The reason Cabrera is 6 and he's not top 5 is because of the cliff that he fell off of when he hit 34. And I can kind of pull up those numbers because I think it's worth looking at just how bad he was. So I'll share this screen instead. So if you look at this, when he was 33, he was 9th in MVP voting, won a Silver Slugger. So he was a top 10 player in the American League in 2016 when he was 33. Turned 34 and just dropped off a cliff. His OPS went from 956 to 728, and it's just, with the exception of 2018, where he had an 843 OPS, it just continues to kind of drop. His OPS and his average, took huge hits after this. So if he retired after that season, after age 33 season, he would have finished with a 321 batting average and 961 OPS. Now, he would have been shy of 3,000 hits, and he would have been shy of 500 home runs because he hit the 3,000 hits and he hit the 500 home runs in those last few years of his career. But his average dipped from 321 to 301 or 306, sorry. And his OPS dipped from 961 to 901. Still great numbers, but again, just like the cliff that he fell off those last few years. Again, he accumulated negative 2.6 B WAR over the last 6 seasons of his career. And for me, when I'm taking that and then comparing it to kind of like 4, 5, and 6 in terms of ranking here for top 10, he just fell off a cliff where those other guys one did not fall off a cliff as bad. And he's a player from the 90s. And the other is a mid-century player who went and fought in World War II. So he's going to get the leg up over Miguel Cabrera here. And that's Hank Greenberg. Okay. So Hank Greenberg, 313 batting average, 331 home runs, 1,276 RBIs with an over 1,000 OPS for his career: two-time MVP, two-time World Series champion, four-time All-Star. 55.5. Now, these numbers are a little lower compared to the others. 55.5 B WAR 7 to 46.5, and a 51 JAWS. Again, you go look at, and I'm pulling up his baseball reference here, see if I can get the amount of games he played in 41. So 1941, he played only 19 games. Then he leaves. He goes and fights in World War II. He was the first MLB player to sign up to go fight in World War II, and he was the longest serving for World War II. Again, you have like Williams, who goes and serves again during the Korean War, but for World War II, he was there for 47 months fighting in Germany. Okay, so he's going to lose. He loses half of the 45 season, all of the 44 season, all of the 43 season, all the 42 season, and essentially all of the 41 season. So it's about 4.5 seasons. Greenberg loses at his prime. He was 30, so again, you could argue that he would have fallen off, but he comes back in 46 and has a 6.5 WAR. He finishes his career in 1947, still have a 2.77 WAR, but at that point he's 36 years old and just went and fought in a world war a few years prior. So his career kind of ends there. If you were to look at his numbers on average and everything like that, they're just crazy. And again, the two MVPs he's going up against, take the two MVPs aside for a moment, next to Jackie Robinson, there probably wasn't anyone who faced as much discrimination during their career. Again, he was one of the first Jewish stars, athletic stars in the major leagues, if not the first. And it's been documented again, and this is not my words, these is baseball historians' words, that next to Jackie Robinson, there was no one who faced as much bigotry as Hank Greenberg. So I'm not necessarily taking that into account in my ranking. I'm much more taking the 4.5 seasons that he lost to go fight the Nazis into my ranking. So when people are like, oh, Jeff Bagwell had better numbers, Jeff Bagwell didn't go fight a war. So just going to put that in. Okay. Number 4 is Frank Thomas. And when I mentioned before how I was questioning kind of like the order of the list, and I was like, I probably should have waited an extra day to finalize this, I might have dropped Frank Thomas back a little, but still 300 average, 521 home runs, 1,700 RBIs, and 974 OPS. He was an on-base machine. 73.8 WAR, 45.4 WAR 7, and a 59.6 JAWS. He won 2 MVPs in the 90s when everyone was juicing. 5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger. And the player that I think a lot of people will say should be above him is Miguel Cabrera. But if you look at Frank Thomas, he played till he was 40 also, just like Cabrera, but he just didn't fall off the same way. Cabrera fell off a cliff when he hit 34 years old. Thomas was not amazing, right? Age 38, he put up 3.2 WAR and hit 39 home runs. Age 39, he put up 2.2 WAR and hit 26 home runs, almost 100 RBIs. He got MVP votes both those years. And age 40, he was hurt. He played only 70 games in 2008, and kind of just that was the end. He went back-to-back MVPs in 1993 and 1994. He was third in MVP voting in 1991, and then he was eighth in 96 and 95, and he was third again in 97. If you go and look at some of the MVPs from this era, and I put that out today with like the WAR, you have like Juan Gonzalez winning with like 3.8 WAR. Now again, Thomas is going up like the Ken Griffey Juniors of the world in some of these years. So let's look at 1991. Yeah, Cal Ripken Jr. put up 11.5 WAR and had one of his best seasons of his career. So can't really argue with that. But in that year, Frank Thomas put up a 453 on base percentage to lead the league, and that over 1,000 OPS, the only player in the league to do so, leading the league as well. So maybe I would have put, honestly, if anything, I would have put Thomas 5 and Greenberg 4. But Frank Thomas is a player from this era that hopefully, I just got a text message from the person who told me to make this list saying Frank Thomas over Miggy is disgraceful. But again, he doesn't know baseball that much. That's okay. Number 3, Jimmy Fox. So Jimmy Fox, 325 batting average, 534 home runs, 1,922 RBIs with a 1038 OPS. He's got a B WAR of 101.5. He's got 57.9 WAR 7. He's got a 75.1 JAWS. He has 3 MVPs, 9-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion. He won the Triple Crown in 1933. And again, this is like, to me, the 30s, 40s, and 50s are just the most fun to kind of like dive into in terms of numbers and everything like that. He did lose in 1943, or he didn't play in 1943. I can't remember if it was for the war or not. It doesn't indicate it on Baseball Reference. He might have been hurt. He did fall off the last like 3 seasons of his career as well. Again, that doesn't really affect. He's still third all time. He's an interesting person to kind of go look into. And if you look at his Baseball Reference page, it's just all bolded black numbers because he led the league. He led the league in OPS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. He led the league in OPS plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Let's see. In 1939, when he was second in MVP, I always like to see who they lost to. He lost to Joe DiMaggio, who put up 8.3 WAR and batted 381. That wasn't the season he had the hit streak. What's most interesting about Jimmy Fox is all 3 seasons that he won MVP, he was actually the league leader in WAR as well, which is like not common at all for pre-2010. So again, I just put out my list for the 1990s with the American League. Only one player that led the league in WAR from 1990 to 1999 won MVP in the American League. Go back. I haven't even gone back every decade. I'm going to be posting those over the next week. The fact that all 3 MVPs they won, he actually led the league in WAR, is just totally not common for the era. So he truly was like the best player in the league for some of these, at least those 3 seasons, if not more. There was one year he got 11th in MVP voting. He had 36 home runs, a 1096 OPS, and 182 OPS plus, and he got 11th. He had 8.0 WAR, which was the best amongst hitters, behind only Lou Gehrig, and that was it, Wes Ferrell. So Wes Ferrell was actually a dual player. He's pitcher and hitter. So that year he got second in MVP voting. So I actually don't count that because he was a pitcher, but he lost to Hank Greenberg that year. Hank Greenberg put up a 7.5 WAR. Jimmy Fox put up a 8.0 WAR and led in home runs, slugging, OPS, and he batted 346 and didn't win the MVP. So you could argue that Fox probably should have had like 5 MVPs, but regardless, moving on. Albert Pujols is my number 2. Number 2 all time. I'm going way longer than I wanted to on this. All time first baseman, 3 MVPs, 2 World Series, 11 All-Stars, 2 Gold Gloves, 101.5 B WAR, the same as Fox, actually, 81.6 draws. I'm just going to show this list real quick. And this is something I tweeted. So from 2000 to 2009, right, I listed all the NL WAR leaders. So from 2009 to 2005, going backwards here, it was Pujols. Pujols won 3 MVPs during that time span. In 2007, when he had 8.7 B WAR and led the league, he got 9th in MVP voting. So again, just like it's totally different than it used to be. Bonds led the league in 2004, 2003, 2002 in WAR and won MVP each of those seasons. Pujols, right? So in 2004 and 2003 was top 3 in WAR. Okay. He was second in MVP voting in 2002, and then he won the Rookie of the Year in 2001. So from 2001 to 2009, if you take Bonds out of the equation, right, which I usually do with, especially with just the steroids, Pujols was the best player in the league, and it wasn't even close. So for almost a decade, Pujols was the best player in majors. Forget about just first base; he was best player in the major leagues. When I'm going to make my top 10 list, obviously, Pujols is going to find a spot here. Number 1, however, is Lou Gehrig, who finished with a 113.7 B WAR. Okay, 2 MVPs, 7 All-Stars. He also had a Triple Crown in 1934 and 6 World Series championships with the Yankees. He was the first in WAR 7, and first in Jaws, first baseman for first baseman. I think. Let me see something real quick. There's something I was going to point out. Yeah, so Cabrera, Fox, and Gehrig all won the Triple Crown. So there's not that many Triple Crown winners that we're going to talk about, and 3 of them we've already gone over in this list. Okay, I went way too long on that, and I also want to argue with Billy now about the Miggy over Frank Thomas, because I don't know what his point's going to be. But yeah, so just to kind of round up this episode, a lot of writers on the Skibsby team now. Go follow them on Twitter. They put great stuff. And a lot of that stuff is also going to be found on the website as well. I am going to. These guys arguing me now about Eddie Murray over Freddie Freeman. I can't. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to last doing all these top 10s because I think I'm just going to be attacked every single time. But that's it for me. Bye.